Hi guys, all right, we're going to be doing the law of cosines now. We spent a couple days doing the law of sines. Now we're going to kind of switch this up. So let me just start by looking at this triangle here. We've got angles A, B, and C. Those always are capital letters. And then we use lowercase letters for the sides, just reviewing here. So side A is across from angle A. Side B is across from angle B. Side C is across from angle C. So this is a capital C, that's a lowercase. I know they don't look very different, but they are. All right, so we're going to use the law of cosines when you know more sides than angles. So let's write this up here. So that would be like if we had a side, angle, side, or with side, side, side. So if you're given two sides in an angle and it's in this order, so the angle's in between the two sides, or if you know all three sides, that's when we're going to use the law of cosines. Otherwise, if you tried to set up law of sines with this given information, it's not going to work. So you should be able to kind of see that. If you set up a proportion, you'd have two variables. Not going to help. So one thing I want to note on here is you always want to find the largest angle first. So always find the largest angle first. That's going to be the angle that's across from the longest side. All right, so the largest angle is always across from the longest side. Those words are too close. All right, so put this down if you need that. Let's try some examples here. So the law of cosines, or let me give you the information first. Sorry, distracted. All right, so the law of cosines would say, let's say we're looking for like side A. If I'm looking for side A, I'm going to start like this. I'm going to say A squared is equal to, I'm going to add the square of the other two sides, so B squared plus C squared. Then I'm going to do minus 2 times these two sides that are right here, so 2BC. And then I'm going to multiply that by cosine of the angle across from the side that I started with. All right, so I'm going to do that again with the other two, just so you can kind of see how this pattern goes. So let's say we're starting with side B. So if I have B squared, I would set that equal to A squared plus C squared minus 2AC cosine of angle B. So the angle always matches with what you're starting with, and then you've got the other two letters here. All right. So the one we haven't done yet is C squared. So if I am looking for side C squared, I'll set that equal to A squared plus B squared minus 2AB cosine of the angle I started with, C. And yes, you do need to know this formula. So I would write it down as you're going through it. The more you do it, it does get a little bit easier. All right, let's take a look at an example of a triangle where it's like a side angle side case. So the angle given is going to be between the two sides. I'm going to start by drawing a triangle. It doesn't matter how you draw the triangle. I mean, sometimes I feel like I draw it so it looks good. Sometimes it's not. So if I look at my information, I need A, B, and C. It said C is 108, so I'm going to go ahead and put C up there just because that looks like the biggest angle to me. I'm going to put a 108 right there, so 108 degrees. Okay, then it doesn't matter. I'm just going to put the A here and the B here. I could have switched that. It doesn't mean anything. So I've got that labeled on my triangle. It said side A. I know that's the side because it's a lowercase, is 22. So it's across from angle A. So I'm going to put the 22 right there. Here's angle B. The side that's across from angle B right here is going to be 15. All right, so I've got that labeled. Do you see how I've got a side and another side and the angles in between? I think I froze. All right, so what we're going to do, and if you look at this, if you tried to do the law of sines, you don't have anything right across from each other to set it up. So, that's like kind of a good point. We can't do law of sines. Not possible. Can't set it up. So What I'm looking for here, it says solve, that means find all the other stuff. We're going to solve, I'm going to start by finding side C, because that's the side that's missing here. So I'm going to do C squared, so that's my C right there. C squared is equal to, I'm going to add the other two sides, A squared plus B squared. So I have A squared is 22 squared plus B squared is 15 squared minus 2 times these two numbers, 2 times 22 times 15. And then I have cosine of the angle I started with. That's 108. So if I look at this, I can just, that's all numbers right now. Even that cosine is a number. So get your calculator and we're just going to plug it in. So let's see what that gives us here. I'm just going to start here. So I've got 22 squared plus 15 squared minus 2 times 22. I'm typing it in exactly the way it's on here. I've got cosine of 108. If for some reason you've messed with your degrees and radians setting on your calculator, make sure that you're in degrees, otherwise you're going to get the wrong answer. Just pointing that out. Okay, so hit enter. So here's where I'm at right now. C squared is equal to 912.95, whole bunch of numbers. Now, I'm going to square root both sides. We're talking about the side of a triangle, so I don't want the negative. Don't mess with plus minus. C equals, I'm not going to clear this out. Okay, I'm just going to get my second x squared, so I have a square root button there. I'm going to go back up and highlight that, because if I try to type it in, I might not type in exactly what's there. So I just went up and highlighted. You guys see how I did that? Went up and highlighted it, and then I hit enter. So I used the up arrow to highlight it, not highlight it, and then when I hit enter, it just kind of popped in there. So let me get out of here. Okay, so if I hit enter now, that tells me that this is 30 point, I didn't tell you how many to round it. Let's just go to the nearest tenth right now. Make sure you guys read directions. It should say how many decimal places we want you to go. 30.2. All right. Now, all right, if you want to kind of fill in what you get on the triangle as you go, I'll do it in a different color so I know what's given. The given stuff is always better than what I find. All right, so now what I need to find angle A and angle B. So now let's find an angle. So you pick, do you want angle A or angle B? I did say we should always find the largest angle first. That's honestly really only when we do SSS. But if you want to kind of just stick with that same notion, so you're always doing the same orders, what would be bigger, angle A or angle B? So look at the sides across from it. 22 is bigger than 15, so angle A should be bigger. Let's go ahead and find angle A, just because it's going to be bigger. All right, so for finding angle A, that means I need to start with side A. So I'm going to go like this. I'm going to do A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine A. So I'm going to find angle A since I've got it like this. So side A is right here. So I've got 22 squared equals B squared is 15 plus C squared is 30.2 squared. And do keep in mind that that's the answer we're using. It is a rounded answer, so this might not be absolutely perfect. Then I've got minus 2 times B times C, and then cosine of angle A. All right, so now we need to start solving to figure out what this angle is. So I'm going to get my calculator out here again. I've got 22 squared is 484. I can go ahead and at least combine this stuff right here. So I've got 15 squared plus 30.2 squared, and that gives me 1,037 minus, I can multiply 2, 15, and 30. 0.2. So I've got minus 906 cosine A. All right, please do not try to subtract these because this 906 is attached to, it's multiplied by that cosine A. So I can subtract this from both sides. This is just algebra here. So 484 minus, there's that number. So I've got negative 653.04 equals negative 906 cosine A. At this point, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 906. Divided by negative 906. So right now I have this, oh, that's a 7 right there. 7, 2, 0, 7, 9, bunch of numbers, equals the cosine of A. So in order to solve this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the inverse cosine. So that's not the reciprocal, that's not secant, this is the inverse. That's how we solve angles. So it's that with that little -1, arc cosine is what you say. So it looks like this. Cosine of this number, 7207. So how I'm going to do that, the way I'll do that on the calculator is I will, if you look at cosine, right above it is where those inverses arcs are. So second cosine, I've got that there. Probably shouldn't have cleared that out. There's that number, it's still up. So I went up, hit enter again, and it's 43.9. So angle A is 43.9 degrees. Now I could go and do all this work again. I mean, obviously I'm running out of room here, my goodness. But if you remember, 3 angles always add up to 180. So let me write this here. 3 angles add up to 180. So I've already got one of the angles is 108. Another angle is 43.9. So the third angle with it is going to have to add up to 180. So here's what I'm doing. I'm doing angle A is 43.9 plus I don't know angle B plus angle C is 108, and this equals 180. So there's the work for it. You should be able to just do that on the calculator. 43.9 plus 108 is that. If I do 180 minus that number, I get angle B is 28.1. So I'll just put that right here. Angle B is 28.1 degrees. So now I've got everything on there. So my angle B is 28.1, angle A is 43.9, and I already had that side C. So we've got all 6 parts of the triangle. We solved it. All right, let's take a look at the next one here. So I'm going to give you all 3 sides this time. So just go ahead and make a triangle. Mine kind of looks equilateral. Doesn't really matter how we do this. I'm just going to go ahead and put ABC on here. Side A is across from angle A, that's 12. Side B is across from angle B, that one's 27. And finally, side C is across from C, that's 20. Now, this is the one where you have to find the biggest angle first. So if you look, the biggest angle is across from the largest side, the longest side. So my biggest number is 27, which means my biggest angle is going to be angle B. So maybe make a note to your side. You find biggest angle first. If you don't, you might end up getting extra information that doesn't work. So, all right, let's go on here. We're looking for angle B, which means we have to do cosine B, which means we need to start with side B. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do 27 squared equals, I'm going to add my other 2 sides, which are 12 squared plus 20 squared, minus 2 times those sides, 12 times 20, cosine of the angle that was across from my starting side, which was a B. All right, so now this is very similar to this problem up here. The more you can do in the calculator, the less mess you're going to have, like I had up here. So let's see. I'm going to go through this. I'm going to do 27 squared, 729. I've got 12 squared plus 20 squared, 544. 2 times 12 times 20 minus 480 cosine B. Okay, so I'm going to, on my calculator, just do 729 minus 544, and that gives me 185 equals negative 480 cosine B. So I'm going to divide that by negative 480. So now I'm at negative 0.385, so that's it, equals cosine B. So in order to figure out what cosine B is, I need to do the arc cosine. So I'm going to do cosine with that little negative 1 there of that negative 0. I keep doing that. 0.385. I don't know why I keep doing that. Sorry, guys. I think I want to throw an extra 0 in there for some reason. Still have that number on the calculator, so I'm going to do second cosine. I'm going to go back up and highlight that, enter, and that gives me 112.7 degrees. So angle B, that equals on there. Angle B is 112.7 degrees. All right, let's try the next one here. It honestly doesn't matter which angle you do next. You should only have to do this one more time because once you have two angles, they all add up to 180. All three add up to 180. But I would probably just go ahead and do whichever the next biggest side is. So that would be this one right here, 20, which is C. So now we're going to find C. Now find angle C. So I've got C squared is equal to, actually no, I know what C is. C is 20 squared equals, add the other two sides, 27 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 27 times 12 cosine, and we're looking for angle C. So I'm going to put a C right there. All right, so now it's just a bunch of calculator work. Let's go ahead, 20 squared is, and you can do more in the calculator if you want. 427 squared plus 12 squared, 873, 2 times 27 times 12, 648 cosine C. So I'm going to do 400 minus 873 is that, negative 473, negative 648 cosine C. I'm going to divide. So I've got 0.729 equals cosine C. So I'm going to do that arc cosine. So I'm not going to write that out this time. So I've got angle C is equal to 43.1 degrees. Now that I have both of those, I've got 112.7 and 43.1, I can just go ahead and add those up. So I've got 43.1 plus 112.7, that gives me 155.8. So if I do 180 minus that, my last angle has to be 24.2. And again, I got that because 3 angles in a triangle have to add up to 180. All right, this next one says the lengths of the sides of a triangular plot of land are 120, 150, 175. So I'm just going to draw a triangle here. And I'm just going to label the sides. So I'm going to put the 175 here because that looks like the longest. And I'll put 120 here and 150. Again, it doesn't really matter. Find the largest angle of the triangle. So to find the largest angle, that's going to be across from my longest side, so it's going to have to be that one. So that's what I'm looking for. I'll just call it X, angle X. And then after I do that, then we have to find the area of the land. So we'll come back and do that next. All right. Since I'm looking for that angle, I'm going to start with the side that's across from it. So I'm going to do 175 squared equals, I'm going to add the two other sides, minus 2 times those sides, cosine of the angle I'm looking for. So again, anytime we're looking for an angle, we're going to have to do that arc, that inverse. All right, so here we go. I've got 175 squared Yeah, here, let me move this. Sorry, guys. 175 squared is that. I'm going to go ahead and do minus 120 squared because I would subtract that. Minus 150 squared. So here's where I'm at. I'm at negative 6275 equals 2 times 120 times 150. So negative 36000. So you could probably do even more of that in your calculator. So negative, okay, let's just go like that. There's that number divided by negative that number gives me 74. And then I want to do the arc cosine of this. So second cosine, and again, I know I'm doing that because I don't know what the angle is. So the largest angle is 79.96. It didn't really say what to round it to. If I rounded that to the nearest tenth, angle X would equal 80 degrees because I would round up to 80 degrees. All right, now that I know that that angle is 80 degrees, let's go ahead and put this on here. That's 80 degrees right there. To find the area of the land, that's my formula. It looks like this. Area equals 1/2 side times side times the sine, that's why it's confusing to say, of the included angle. Okay, so the included angle is what we just found. That's 80. So what are the two sides that are on either side of it? 120 and 150. So those are the two numbers I'm using. 80 is included between 120 and 150. So the area of this land is just 1/2 120 times 150 sine, I know this is confusing, now we're switching back to sine, of 80 degrees. So I have 1/2 times 120 times 150 sine 80. And that gives me the area of this land is 8,863.3 feet squared. One thing I want to point out, did you guys notice on here how I was working with cosine and I just stuck with cosine? I didn't try to switch back and forth to law of sines. Your other teachers and I are really going to suggest that if you start with the law of sines, stick with the law of sines. If you start with the law of cosines, stay with the law of cosines. Don't try to mix them because funky things can happen. So I would just stick with whatever you start with. All right, you are using a 10-foot 2x12 board to make a ramp for your skateboard. Okay, so we're making a ramp. So think about what a ramp would look like. That would be an angle. Do I really care how thick that board is? Not really, so this is just irrelevant. Irrelevant info. Okay, the angle of elevation to the top of the ramp is 10.6. So let's make our right triangle here. So the angle of elevation is 10.6 degrees, and I know it's a right triangle because that ramp is going to have a vertical side right here. How high is the end of the ramp off the ground? So like here's the ground, we're looking to see how high that ramp is. It did tell us, I thought it told us something else here. Oh yeah, it did. It said a 10-foot board. I missed that there. So the board is 10 feet tall. So I don't care how thick the board is, but I need to know how long it is. All right, so if we look here now, here's the angle that we're referring to. This is the opposite side, and then this is the hypotenuse. Think about what uses opposite and hypotenuse. So it's almost like we're going back and reviewing old stuff here. We don't need law of sines and cosines, so just SOHCAHTOA. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so I'm going to do the sine of the angle. You always put an angle after these, so the sine of angle 10.6 is equal to the opposite, which I don't know, over the hypotenuse, which is 10. So I would just multiply both sides by 10 here. And I get x is equal to whatever 10 sine 10.6 is. 10 sine 10.6. So I'm left with 1.8. So it's off the ground 1.8 feet, 1.8 feet high. All right. Make sure you guys are always watching. Like maybe I would have said how many inches is it? Or we've done some of those where we make you guys kind of convert. So make sure you guys are really watching and reading to see when you have to change stuff. All right. Go give that homework a try and let us know if you guys need help. Bye-bye.